Nathan, you using any interesting tools, AI specifically, or are you still in the learning phase? Where are you at?
Well, I'm on the learning phase, and that's why I'm here today.
Jan, what about you?
I think I'm in the victim phase that I get presented prices on the internet that are now tailored to me and how I feel.
So my two co-hosts here, we have Jan Smith, who's the Director of Technology, Innovation and Growth at Sherritt, and he's coming to us from the Edmonton area of Canada. Cheryl Hart from OnTask Strategy, she's coming from just north of Toronto. And Cheryl provides companies with growth strategies, operational roadmap, business insights. And if you need a translator between yourself and government, she understands how they speak, how they think, and other mysteries of the universe. And I'm coming from just the West End, Oakville, about 40 kilometers west of Toronto. We have something called Ask the Expert. If you go to the platform where you registered for a webinar, there's something called Ask the Expert. So if you have a question after the fact, or if you're watching this by a recorded means, you can ask questions and we'll make sure that Maddie gets them. Of course, you could ask questions to Cheryl or Yad or myself through there as well. So the intro is really, what's the impact of AI on innovation within the business world? How AI transcends multiple areas of businesses, how AI tools are catalyzing change and driving force behind innovation, and how we can use them for decision making. I'll just give a quick intro to Maddie, but when she comes online, I'll get her to add in what she'd like. Before her current role, she was with Procter and Gamble, leading some of the world's brands at P&G for about 12 years. And her co-founder Mike have been together for about 20 years, and they're raising three young children, Kate 5, Paige 3, and Emily 1. And I'm sure that requires a lot of scheduling just amongst that group there. So, Maddie, what I'll get you to just introduce yourself, and Cheryl, when you come in with the poll, I'll get you to introduce how you met Maddie and your interest in this topic as well.
Cool. So, hey guys, nice to meet you all. So I was asked to come here, and I actually have two roles in this conversation today. One of my roles is as a business owner. So I am the CEO of a venture-backed AI company, and the majority of my job is making sure that my team is set up for success. So a lot of what I will be talking about and answering questions on today is how have I brought AI into my company to enable my people to achieve great business results? So that's one role. And then my second role is obviously I am, again, the CEO of an AI company. So our company is Scheduler AI. And if you are, you're probably not really, it sounds like most people aren't on video, but if you can hear this, if you like scheduling meetings with your clients, raise your hands. Like more client meetings, more money. Yes. If you like actually coordinating those meetings, keep your hands up. Okay, no, you don't like it, Cheryl. Okay, yeah. So basically that's what we do. We help businesses instantly book more client meetings and keep those client meetings by providing them with an actual AI assistant that schedules meetings for you. So that's what we do. And so today I will be talking about how you can use AI for your people, how AI is actually developed, and all kinds of different things to help you guys ideally get some ideas on how you can apply it to your own business.
Let's do a poll. Let's get everyone, when everyone's doing the poll, and I'll say it, so essentially, there's definitely some AI gurus have been at this for years, 10, 15 years. And so we've been able to see a lot more action on our social medias and really getting these tools. And Maddie and Schedule AI popped up because Ali K. Miller, she used to lead AI over at Amazon, and she's a top guru in social media and the industries and a good partnerships that's been happening. And she really highlighted how Maddie's tool has a unique way to bring innovation together with teams. And she really highlighted in saying, how can we bring these pieces together without sitting in a room all day long every day? So, you go for a meeting and then you're just like, you don't want to let go because you're like, when are we going to get everybody out together again? And essentially, with Schedule AI, where she identified it's like, this is a different way to run innovation. You can come together with your ideas and then you back out, have a moment to absorb it, and then to get everybody back together again, you don't have to sit in a hotel for 2 days. So essentially, Schedule AI, for example, this tool, AI tool, can bring people together faster. So you're bringing those ideas together faster, you're coordinating faster, you're bringing the information to the teams faster. So I thought that was a really cool way to say, hey, this. I fall into that trap of saying, hey, I get pulled into workshops and with clients and saying, okay, well, how do we take a moment to absorb this and come back? So I said, Maddie, can you please come and be on Bits and Bytes with us and talk to us about what you're kind of managing, what you're seeing. And we've got lots of interesting questions from Nathan and hopefully the audience.
So Maddie, you're in luck. So more than half the people are not very familiar or completely new. Nobody wanted to put themselves down as an expert. So luckily you're here. And about 40% are somewhat familiar. So definitely on the scale of not familiar or completely new. So that's great for us. So I'll start off with a couple of questions, if you don't mind. One of them is, what's the most amusing misconception about AI that you've encountered in your work? And the other one, what are specific ways that teams can harness AI to speed up the innovation process? So I'll let you answer whichever of those two you like first.
So what is the most amusing? We say this to customers, clients every day. AI is a super powerful technology. AI is not magic, right? There is a difference. And so I think that's a good thing, right? So, when the world's computers were introduced to those people that had never seen or experienced massive computers, it did appear like magic, right? But it's not. These are all tools that have been built by people with specific inputs. And obviously today, a lot of the conversation is around generative AI, right? Because if you guys have been a lot of you in industrial types of spaces, there's been AI in product supply and all that for a long, long time. What's really hit mainstream is this generative AI. And what that means for those that aren't as familiar is that these generative AI models have essentially been trained on lots of data, depending on the model, right? In the case of GPT, which you guys have probably heard of in the news or around, it's literally been trained on the information available on the internet. So imagine if you read every page of the internet and you just knew it. They could give you a test and you would be able to use all of that information. That's essentially what it is. And then it's trained as a neural network to be able to make connections between that information as if it's processing the logical consistencies similar to how you and I might decipher and create conclusions from that information. So that would be the funniest thing I've said is it's important to remember that AI is an extremely powerful tool. It is not magic, which means you can understand it and you can control it and you can leverage it in your businesses in ways that fit your requirements.
Yeah, you've used the word tools a lot. So in your world, you're looking at it just like a computer or some tool. But I think your point is that now it's a tool that's available to all of us. Whereas robotics would be for manufacturers, but these tools are available. Like I just saw today on LinkedIn that they're starting to use it to look at your CV, to change the CV, and to perhaps target it to people who could use those skills, or to identify jobs that would be applicable to you. So here's a case that it's available to any one of us.
Yeah, and I think if you think about these generative AI models as tools, there's different things that most businesses need to look at. And for those of you listening, I'm going to kind of use the metaphor of computers just because everybody knows what computers are. We know they're powerful. We use them every day. So this is not a one-to-one metaphor, but we'll use it. And if it sounds confusing, just put a comment in there. Obviously, there are people who use tools to build software, companies that use computers to build software to fuel their companies. And in many cases, that software is customizable. It is focused on that company's data, that company's workflows. And there's an entire IT department, maybe a chief innovation officer, and they're focused on building those technical tools for your enterprise. Just like software, that is possible with AI. So you guys are probably seeing a lot of, oh, how do we take our data and build all these big platforms or these agents for our industry? Yes, that is part of the conversation. The other side of computers is the computer you use in the office every day to go fast, right? So we're not writing our corporate memos with a pen and paper anymore. We're not doing that. We're typing them up. And that part of AI is also real. You are able to and have access to now tools that allow you to do tasks within your workplace at 1/10 of the time they used to take. So if you're a senior leader in your business, you should be thinking about both of those things. What is the software? What is the customizable AI you need to fuel your business? Absolutely. And what are the AI tools your workforce needs in order to operate with maximum efficiency and effectiveness? Obviously, when it comes to scheduling meetings, I play on that side of the equation, right? Our job is to make it frictionless for people to meet together. The average employee wastes 4 to 5 hours per week just managing their calendar. Now, if you have a light calendar, maybe you don't meet with a ton of people, maybe that's not the case. Most people, it is several hours a week. We can make that go away by giving you a better tool, right? So that's one example. On the other side, you see people creating AI agents for enterprise that, I don't know, index all of their data and make it perfectly available so they can do maybe mining stuff. So anyway, if that makes sense, maybe drop it in the chat and say, yes, that made sense, or no, I'm totally confused. But that's how I would think about it when you guys start to think about, okay, what role does AI play? You want to think about, are you enabling your people with better tools? Are you building specific AI for your business to achieve a specific outcome?
Well, just by coincidence, that happened to be this morning. I got a call from somebody. She was coming to Toronto for some event, and something changed. And she said, oh, no, I've got to change the flight, I got to change the restaurant, I got to change this, I got to change this, I got to contact all the people. And I was just thinking in my head, she's going to be spending like 2 hours just trying to arrange all this. And, your webinar was coming up, and I was thinking like, if we had some magic tool that was able to, contact all these people simultaneously. And, I think you hear this all the time. So do you see your schedule AI tool as more of a productivity or more efficiency or more of a nuisance type of application?
The way we think about it, because I'm a manager of people, we always talk about efficiency and effectiveness. They're never separate, right? At the end of the day, the most efficient employee who doesn't help us make revenue isn't effective. And so when we build AI, our focus is on delivering tangible business results. And for us, that means helping people schedule meetings that tend to make them money, right? So we want to enable sales teams to connect with clients instantly, recruiters to connect with talent right away. But we also help people be efficient, right? To Cheryl's point, we get the project teammates in a room when they need to be to work on the project. Productivity should be a natural outflow of that. But I would say efficiency and effectiveness are both required. And it should be something you're measuring all of your AI tools on, right? Great, this makes me more productive, but does it make me more efficient at delivering the business result that I'm actually trying to pursue?
I found an artifact of the COVID era, BC, I guess, before COVID. People would just go, I would go to Yad's office, and, if he was there, I'd knock on the door. But now people are, scheduling, let's say 30-minute blocks in order to talk to someone. And you might only need 5 minutes, and then, here's a block of 30 minutes and nobody else will book you because you're booked for 30 minutes and you're not going to stay on the call for like 30 minutes if I just had a 5-minute call for Jan. So did COVID influence scheduler AI, or were you working on this beforehand?
COVID did. I think being parents of 3 kids influenced it the most. Finding time for us took too much time, whether it was at work, scheduling appointments, trying to find time with friends. So that was certainly the biggest one. But certainly, when you're dealing with teams across time zones, time zone math is hard, right? And part of what we say you guys should look for when you're looking for AI tools, what tasks are your people doing that are repetitive, tedious, fundamentally necessary, right? So even though the time zone math is terrible, I can't just not meet, right? I'm not going to achieve my business objective if I can't get a meeting on the books. So again, those are areas where if you're looking to say, where could I get some AI involved? Repetitive, tedious, absolutely necessary. You should absolutely be looking in those places.
Cheryl, I saw Bert Halls had a question and you answered him. Maybe you could read his question.
Yeah, actually, it's a great question. Just there's so much hitting us right now, Maddie, of just where to go, new tools. Every day there's just reiterations, and I think for me it's a bit overwhelming because I do deal with clients looking to integrate new tools, but they're on like old series, and we see like companies come together so fast, pulling information together so fast. So the way I've gone on it, Bert's asking, where do you look for what available tools there are? So I put in Futuretopia. What is it? Yeah, Futurepedia is what it's called, .io. And but for me, I don't think there's a golden answer to that. But what do you think, Maddie?
I'll answer it strategically and then I'll answer it functionally. Strategically, I always coach people, look for tools in a similar fashion to the way you did before. Meaning at the end of the day, what is your problem? What are you trying to achieve from a business standpoint? And how can you then look for tools that deliver on that specific problem? So if I am looking for, I want my team to be able to operate as efficiently as possible. Okay, which team? Is it the marketing team? Okay, they, spend half their time generating content. What content? Okay, cool. So we need to be able to help them create content. Here are 3 content platforms. You can look at general things. Like I said, like only 1% of the world's knowledge workers have an executive assistant. So maybe you want to allow people to collaborate. You want better remote tools. Then you may look at me. So I would say start with the problem. That said, when in doubt, you can absolutely look at different websites. I like to follow people on LinkedIn that talk about new platforms. And I will say, when it comes to actually generating content and knowledge, if your company allows it, GPT-4 is still going to be the best. So a lot of companies wrap branding around GPT-4. And what they do is they include really good prompting to get you a better output faster. So for example, maybe some of the copy platforms, what they'll do is they'll prompt it to make sure that it sounds right for a US audience, or it's using the right language, tone. So you will get a better, faster output, but you could probably get the same output if you just prompted GPT-4 well yourself. So those are different. Now you have platforms like mine, where it's like no amount of prompting is going to get GPT-4 to schedule a meeting for you on an Outlook calendar. It's not functionally capable. So that's where you can look at services like mine, which take an LLM and actually apply it to a workflow that you care about. So Ned, start with the problem, try to identify it, search for those specific solutions. When in doubt, look at GPT-4. And, you can obviously look at top AI apps, ones that are performing, ones that are popular, and there's probably a reason why.
I kind of go back to the Excel days. You want everybody used to be like, how, simple adding in a cell. And then it got to pivot tables. And then it got to like expanding. And then people found tricks and shortcuts and this and that, and I feel like ChatGPT is like that in the sense of I've used it in the prompting. You learn to prompt better. You learn to engage pieces more. Also on social media, there's tons of people on there showing you how to use the tool. So I would, anyone in the audience looking who hasn't used the tool, get on it, because the saying is, try these things, because if you're not using these tools, you're going to be left behind.
And
What
I
do you
think
feel about that?
Jan had a good question kind of on this, right? She said, AI seems to sometimes have a mind of its own. Do we give up too much control? And so what I like to tell people is these models, so here's a fancy term for you if you want to play AI bingo. These terms are what is called non-deterministic models. And what that means is each time you throw the information into the blender and you ask a question, it is going to look at the different connection points of the knowledge that it has, and it's going to pop out a potentially different answer every time. Because it's thinking. It is actually connecting, like this is like this is like this. I know this from this part of the internet. So it is absolutely doing that. That said, what a lot of people try to compare it to is your employees are doing the same thing. So at the end of the day, another way to exemplify it is in a creative space. If you're writing a blog, creativity is good, right? Thinking about this differently, thinking about it non-deterministically, trying it this way. Oh, no, you didn't like it this way. All right, let's tweak it. Like that's a great experience. And it's why generative AI hit the creative side so far, so fast, because you want creative thinking. You want unique thinking. Obviously, as you go into, I don't want any mistakes, that is where you are going to need a more controlled model. What I would also say is a lot of times when I talk to companies and they're like, but what if GPT-4 makes a mistake? Guess what? Your people do too. So at the end of the day, right, a lot of the times I talk to them. So let's give an example. Our sales teams that we talk to have very robust playbooks. Everybody who comes to the company needs to memorize. If they say this, you say this, and they just memorize these pages of information. But when it comes down to actually selling, it's whatever in their head, right? In that case, AI can do very similar things, right? And so a lot of this, when it comes to security, compliance, which workflows, is about thinking, who would you put in charge of this and why if it were human? Is it something where memorizing a ton of standardized information is critical and is the most important thing? You should use AI. It's very good at memorizing things. If it's one where it's a legal document and if it says one word wrong, somebody's going to jail, I would not use AI, right? So there's judgment that needs to come. So that's what I would kind of say. So like, do we give up too much control? Whenever you're going to use technology, you are going to give up control. So, and that hasn't changed. That was that way before AI. So using those same IT best practices on how do we create safe software solutions, all of those should be in play when you look at bringing AI into your enterprise. And then, okay, well, how do I know what IT principles I need? That is where it really does help, to what Cheryl said, play with these platforms. You will learn a new behavior just by getting a free GPT account and asking it to write you a poem about panda bears and trying to get it to give you something that you want, because that interaction of, no, you didn't really do it that way, I wanted it this way, will start to get you comfortable with how this new relationship works. And it's similar, like when somebody first saw a computer, you're like, okay, so you take your fingers and you hit the buttons and then it's going to appear on the screen, right? Like you need to establish that knowledge of the tool, and then you can take that into a much broader conversation.
And we CEOs had to learn to start typing again.
But
For
Jan
sure.
had something about Jan had something about a hockey game in the chat, but it kind of reminded me, like Jan and I were just working on something, and we asked ChatGPT to write us some kind of journal article, and it came up with two references that sounded really, really good, and we said, oh, this is great, this is exactly what we need, and then we went to search for them, and they weren't there, they were just bogus. I'm not sure why it put that type of reference in a technical paper, but it sounded what we wanted, but it was too good to be true.
Yeah, and Jan, sorry, I mispronounced your name before. My AI will not send you to a hockey game that doesn't exist. You're not. But basically, what we have done and what a lot of companies do, right, is I need the generative AI to interpret what are you trying to schedule. When you open up an email and CC your AI assistant and the people you want to meet with, and you say something like, scheduler, find an hour for us to meet next week, I need the AI to understand that you want an hour and you want to meet next week. But then I need to take that data input and I need to actually execute an entire workflow. I need to identify time availability during that time. I need to send it to a Google Calendar, a Microsoft Calendar. I need to look at whose information I know, whose I don't. I need the AI to be able to problem solve if the person's outside of your organization. They need to be proposing times versus just saying this is what works. So what I would also say is a lot of this is complex technology that is layered. So you may use the AI to interpret the command, but the rest is true software engineering. So hopefully that answers your question. But
let's say
can
we're
I layer
both
on just what Bert said, Nathan?
Sure.
Just we had Bert. He actually asked a good question. It kind of leads into what you're saying, Maddie. Is okay. It schedules. Okay, great. And does that mean that AI would make those meetings more effective? So I know those language models where you can have it record, you don't have to people taking notes anymore. So can you give us like a little example, like so how this would work and how does it make meetings more effective?
Sure. No, happy to. So everybody on here use email? We'll talk through email. That one's pretty easy. Okay. So the way you use our AI is just like you had an executive assistant. So when you open up an email, the first thing you're going to do is sign up. All you do is log in with Google or Microsoft and you sign up. Then anytime you add scheduler at scheduler.ai to an email and give a scheduling command somewhere in that email, it will work to coordinate that meeting. So for example, hey, Cheryl, loved the podcast. Everyone on there was amazing. Would love to follow up with you for 30 minutes next week to debrief. Scheduler, find time for 30 minutes next week. Or just say, let's grab 30 minutes next week to debrief. Doesn't have to be that specific. I hit send. The minute I hit send, the information will be sent to the LLM. It will interpret the message and say, okay, Maddie wants to meet with Cheryl for 30 minutes next week. Then it will say, well, Maddie signed up, so I know Maddie's calendar, but I have no idea what Cheryl's doing next week, so I should propose a time. Cheryl, here's a few times that Maddie is free for 30 minutes next week. Do any of these work for you? Cheryl says, oh, I like this one. Clicks it. Great, I've locked it in. The meeting's on everyone's calendar. Cool. But 30 minutes prior to the meeting, Cheryl realizes she's in a huge meeting with her vice president. She can no longer make it. She's really sorry. And she says, sorry, Maddie, something came up. Can we reschedule this meeting to next week? Well, I might be in another meeting. I don't know where I am. Maybe I'm sleeping. Maybe I'm at the gym. Scheduler will see that, adjust the time for next week, and keep it on everyone's calendars. So that's just an example, right? It can do that with groups. It can do that across time zones. If I want to say, hey, Cheryl, I want you to meet with Mike and I from my organization, I just CC Mike. And now scheduler knows, well, I know Maddie and Mike's calendar. So I'll just propose the times that they're both free to Cheryl. So that's just a small example, right? And then to your point on, hey, can the AI do meeting minutes? Yeah, absolutely. We personally have focused on the scheduling side. But we will be launching meeting minutes soon. It's a very easy technology. It's very commoditized. There are 100 platforms, so you should totally sign up for one. I actually like Sybil. If you guys,
I love Sybil.
Otter.ai is great. So yeah, it can take meeting notes. And then what you will see from us, and so this is where I'm happy to share a peek behind the hood. All of the venture-backed AI companies that are really trying to change the game are focused on what the future will look like for these types of things. And so in our world, the thesis is scheduling doesn't start with a calendar. It starts with a conversation. In almost every case, you're having a conversation, and that conversation has context, and that context matters. So that's the first thesis that we're focused on. The second thesis is the calendar is the database of how work gets done in your organization. What work gets done, who does it, when they do it, and it can even predict what work should be done. And so while, yes, my company is focused on the atomic unit of the calendar, which is just schedule the darn meeting, you will see us continue to evolve into a place of how can you leverage that enterprise level calendar data to create higher performing enterprises at scale.
I'm trying to think of a mining example, and I know you're not a mining person. Oh, by the way, it won't pick 3 o'clock in the morning on December 25th because we're both free at that time.
No,
Okay,
it's
good.
smart enough to know your time zone, when you meet relatively. You can set code words based on meetings you set regularly, so it knows the rules. And it's smart enough to know that people eat lunch in the middle of the day.
I was thinking of a mining example. So it might not be necessarily people. Like, for example, you might have different mining trucks going to different parts of the pit, and you don't want 5 trucks to show up and waiting because there's only 1 shovel there, and no trucks going somewhere else because there's 2 shovels and no trucks. So you think it could be used for other applications besides scheduling people and calendars, but maybe machines. And I guess the robotics is one example where it does do that. But
we're going to run a poll and we'll get some answers from you here, and maybe the audience will be able to connect the pieces, because Maddie's not from mining, but I'm sure she can connect in the pieces. We have a fair bit of mining people here, but we'll run the poll, and then we can help Maddie out here. So considering AI adoption, what do you think are the key challenges mining should anticipate? So we have data quality, workforce reskilling, regulatory compliance, costs and investment, and lack of understanding. Oh, if you can solve that, Maddie, lack of understanding.
So this is interesting. So let's say workforce reskilling. Does the mining people need the skills, or could they rely on people like yourself and others who we would approach with here's my problem, I don't know how to use AI to solve it, but you might not know the issues in mining, but if we describe to you some of the issues, so do we need people who are experts in mining, or are there enough people working in their mother's basement in Sweden with the skills who could solve this problem?
It's hard to answer in full without getting clear again on what is the problem, right? Because again, could computers help the mining industry? Like, probably, right? Like, who's using computers, right? So I think, for example, you want to go back to those 2 things, right? Like, what are the workflows that your people are executing? Are they creating standardized documents? AI can write standardized documents in 30 seconds. So if you have a template of anything, this is one fun one that everyone can do. So everyone can do this. And you don't need to use work stuff. You can pick something else. If you go to GPT and you get a free account, and then you go to Google Chrome and get the Chat GPT microphone extension, all it does is it allows you to speak and it records your voice. And you say, I'm going to tell you a story about a time that I had a very difficult career decision to make. And then you just talk. and you tell the whole story. You can be chatty like me, you can be brief like other people. And then at the very end, you say, great, here's a LinkedIn post template that I found. Translate this story into that LinkedIn post template. And now you have a LinkedIn post. And all it took you the time to talk into a microphone, grab a template, copy and paste it in. Same thing can happen with documents. I have this template that I have to fill out every time. It's about mining. I don't even want to type it out. I just want to tell you the answer to all these questions. I want you to fill out the template. Done. So, that's an example of reskilling is real, but also just taking the time to show people what's possible. And the best thing that someone did for me at the beginning of this was say to me, okay, you all have a direct report. $20 a month at GPT-4, you all have a direct report. Go manage that direct report. Come back, look at all the work you do, and figure out what that direct report can now do for you that you don't need to do for you anymore. And pick all the crappy stuff. I think it says safety forms. I don't know. I mean, again. And then
I put that.
Then you just have to make sure you're allowed to share that information, right? So some companies have AI on their side of the firewall, just like you wouldn't go onto Google and put in, here's the profit statement from P&G. Don't do that. But you can even say, I am not going to give specific numbers. I am going to say the word blank, and I just want you to write blank, and I will come back in and fill it in later. In those areas, workforce reskilling is similar to teaching people how to use a new iPad or a new iPhone or a new computer. And yes, you should take the time and you should teach them. Workforce reskilling on how do I get the right IT people to know how to build and train models is a different conversation.
The results are interesting. So half the people think data quality is going to be an issue, and the rest of them are pretty evenly distributed. So, people are always worried about having enough data in mining and enough good quality data. So, that's obviously a concern of the audience here.
Yeah, I mean, data quality is one that a lot of companies are working on right now. They're trying to clean up their data in a way that it can be ingested. Great example of that is when you record meetings, right? For a long time, people didn't think that data had any value. It has tons of value. So that's why they're doing it. So you can work with consulting groups that can start to help you get your data into the right format to have it be ingested. I know one guy I spoke with does this a lot. And again, he talked about, look, there is human error in the data you already have. So there is always going to be error. Even humans make mistakes. But getting into a format where you can interrogate it is often well worth your time.
Taking it one step further, I saw Glenn Smith was on the call. So if you're doing, let's say, a bunch of different reports, and there's no sense scheduling meeting one until, let's say meeting two is finished, or you need 3 people together on topic C, and so instead of just like one-on-one meetings, adding different layers of complexity to it, are people looking at that now, or do you think that's something in the future?
Yeah, so we will be launching sequential meeting workflows eventually. So, I mean, all of these things will build off of themselves. It's all about taking the time to teach the AI the decisions that need to be made and the questions that need to be asked to make the decisions. And then you just keep layering. But the cool thing about it is, how many people on the chat have ever had a puppy? Anybody? Okay. Puppy people? Awesome. Training AI into your workflows is like bringing home a new puppy, right? Like you've got to figure out how to train the puppy and make it sit and not pee on the carpet. No. But the cool thing about training the puppy and taking the time to do it is after that, you have rin tin tin. You have a guard dog that is going to jump through a window every time and get the bad guy. And so that's another way that I would think about it, even in your own workflows. Like, yes, it's going to be a pain in the butt to be like, do this. Nope, that's not what I meant. Do it this way. Crap. Okay. But once you've set up that system will always deliver for you. And so that's the way you want to rethink about this is I could go get my puppy and I could train my puppy to do what I need to do. And then I could keep teaching my puppy new tricks. And so the things like that you just mentioned, Nathan, are the new tricks, right? You will continue to see our puppy learn a lot of new tricks, but we've got to go in stages and we've got to make sure the puppy learns it appropriately. And then we just give people cool Rin Tin Tin scheduling puppies.
But Maddie, and then AI can only produce results that are as good as its training. So how do you avoid that it builds up biases like we've read about in the press so often?
Just like human bias, AI bias is real. I first and foremost, as a leader of my company, this comes down to where we will use AI and where we will not, right? If it is, so for example, if I'm trying to write a document, it's a factual, informational document with a very set template. I'm not actually worried about bias, right? I'm just trying to fill out a template. If I'm asking it philosophical, mission-based questions, or how should I handle a certain type of person, maybe I shouldn't be asking those questions to that tool, right? So I think that's absolutely something we want to consider. But again, think about social media. Think about, social media information tunnels, right? If you click on certain things, media knows what you like. It's going to keep showing you that until you think it's real. So there is bias in all of the technology we're using. This is not different. And so once again, I say, like, we need to all be checking our technological biases. I don't think the fundamentals of checking those biases are different necessarily for the average person. For the folks building these models, I think the regulation coming is really good and important because, again, I don't think you're going to worry about on the mundane, like everyday work that you're doing using this as a computer. The bias, I do think that the actual big dogs will need that regulation to make sure those things are in place.
Do you think it's okay to ask the questions? How do you handle this tough situation just to see what it would come up with, as long as you don't follow it blindly?
I do. I mean, I think it takes deference. I think that it takes wisdom. I think all technology can be used for good and it can be used for evil. So, one of the things for those parents on the call, my daughter plays with AI and she's 5, not by herself but you know what we do? We make children's books. And I say, Kate, describe to me a character that you want to see. And we open up GPT-4, we use the Dolly extension, and she says she wants to see a pink unicorn wearing a blue crown with sparkly sprinkles on its saddle. And then she gets to see that, and she loves it. And then I ask Kate, is a pink unicorn with sparkly sprinkles on the saddle, is that real? She says, no. But you see it. It's on the internet. You just told it to show you a real life picture of it. Is it real? And so to me, some of that is the difference, right? Now, again, there are a lot of policy things and biases that people are working on at the true Silicon Valley tech level, and they should be. And our government should be, and that stuff needs to be in place. But I think for the common person, it's going to be the same thing as how you handle the internet and making sure your kids and you understand that this is a tool and you should always question it.
Can I add a layer to that? Because there's some of us working for large organizations. We have to do like call in to IT to add anything. You can't just go online and drop in any kind of add-on tool. And I'm kind of thinking of plugins to your Microsoft, whether they're getting plugin for your tool, Scheduler AI. I would love it, but I'm going to have, big organizations going to have IT saying, whoa, we haven't looked at this. How would us on this call, what's the best way to manage trying to get these tools and we're never going to be as fast. If we're a huge organization, won't be as nimble. But do you have suggestions for us to be able to bring on these tools?
So it's tough. I worked, my last business was the North America Oral-B toothbrush business for Procter & Gamble. We did $1 billion in sales. So I know what it means to be inside of a big company. And the reality is the information that that company holds cannot be made readily available to the public in many cases. And so the things that are happening in the marketplace right now, me as a vendor, I meet with IT teams. We go through those reviews, right? So we like to talk to people that have the problem, that say, this is killing me. It's killing my company. I can't, like, we are wasting time and we need to be making money and I just need better scheduling. Cool. Where's your IT guy? And then I'm going to go have that conversation and make sure it's safe and implement it. Because every company is going to be different. Smaller companies, less sensitive data, you're good to go. So I think it really is, what I will say is, if you are able to familiarize yourself with the tool, make a children's book for your kid, you will know what it's capable of, and that will help shape the asks that you have of your technical departments. So if you go to them and say, hey, I just want AI. I just want a computer. Okay, like you kind of have a computer, or the one you have is fine. Like it's not clear. If you go to them and say, I am wasting this much time doing this task, this is what I need to do that task faster. I know that GPT-4 can do it, but I recognize you may want a different solution because there might be one that's more secure, or you might want to handle it differently. How do I get that done? That's the impactful conversation to have. So understand what the tool is capable of, so you can link that to what you're trying to do from a business standpoint and take that conversation to your IT, is how I would do it. Or talk to a vendor like me and introduce us to your IT, and then we will do it.
So you're touching on an interesting point about, innovation in mining. So from your experience with scheduler AI and with T&G, so if you go to the IT people, they might understand what you're trying to do, but they might not have the power to implement it in a big company. And if you go to, let's say, the CEO, he might like it or she might like it. It's like, oh, blinking light, AI, yeah, I want that, but might not have, the technical background to understand what they want or don't want. So do you have greater traction going to the IT people or going to the senior management company?
I would say if you are not senior in your company, going to the senior management for sure. Because at the end of the day, most IT folks, their job is to vet technology that the business has named a priority. And so it goes back to solving a business problem by saying, look, my team can save X amount of hours per week by not having to do this anymore. That's real. That's material. This is how much money I'm going to be able to, from a productivity standpoint, from a more revenue standpoint, whatever you want it to be, this is what I'm going to be able to do if you give me this tool. And then taking that to the right person to have them say, okay, let's have IT now go identify a solution. And that's really their job. And again, guys, I hope what you take away from this conversation is that's not that different than what it was before AI, right? Their job was to vet software that helps fuel the business. It's just you guys pushing more on what you need with a new expectation on what you could have.
So is the trick to start small? Like, for example, we could try it with scheduling meetings. We could try it, with improving meetings. And then once you get used to it, like the puppy analogy, then it's like, oh, let's try it here, or can it do this? So is the idea just to start and try it and get some successes?
I like pushing small workflow, big impact. So you should expect transformational leverage when you implement AI. Like you should literally expect it to be able to listen to you blabber on for 5 minutes and then turn it into a perfectly organized memo based on your company's template in 30 seconds. But that workflow that you put into it, took me 5 minutes to talk to it, should be small. The impact should be disproportionately large. Those are the ones I like to see people getting started with, because then they get that satisfaction of, man, all I had to do was write an email and it scheduled a meeting. That was amazing. I didn't have to do all the 9 other emails and blah, 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 blah. And then you just keep building off of that. So I don't think you have to change every workflow and every system for every person. I think you change one little thing to try to get one big output and start there. Just my own personal, I think. Yeah.
I had a thought for us, like in mining. I don't know if anyone's seen this on, they do it on social media where they have in an actual mine site, everybody will be having a video up of seeing how the production is going, how the trucks are being loaded and everything. And then you'll have the engineers who've worked in operations saying, no, the truck's misplaced. The digger's in the wrong spot. They're too high, they're too low. So it'd be kind of cool to be able to like take videos of production, put it in and say, optimize this like video based, like instead of pictures, that would be really cool. I think if we got to that, just taking our existing workflows that we do all day. It's almost like a robot watching us and saying, okay, pumping out. If you sat here, this would be better. I know we do that. I used to be in dental. That's how I also recognized Maddie. I used to, connect there. We would always say the dentist has to have 2 chairs open. So then when you cleaned one patient, you're jumping and the other room's already open and available. So then why do you set up practices in certain ways? And I was thinking on the production side for mining, it's like, if you could just video that and say, hey, here's your optimization in each of the segment after it watches the flow. I thought that would be pretty cool.
Yeah, that's an interesting thing. I think if people were able to watch, 5 trucks standing there, waiting there for an hour for the shovel, like they would ask the questions of, why are you doing that? Isn't there a better way to do it? Whereas, if the mine's in the middle of the Andes and nobody ever gets to see what goes on there, it's just the way it's always been done. So, yeah, I like that. And we'll expose it to
ramping
Maddie.
up on supply chains. So there you go, Maddie. There's something for you. We have, supply chains. What's happening around the world? How do we get, just almost like the just-in-time planning that we had in the car manufacturing, scheduling when we can get, the commodities in the right place, right time. We know where they're happening. I think a fair bit of that's happening already. Someone had mentioned on production, Geotab is one of the companies on fleet management software. We already know when the truck is going to be needed to go in to get its tires changed, those kind of things. So really kind of ramping it up on a grander scale on supply would be, in my mind, pretty cool.
Yeah, and I think that's the power of training the core mechanism. Like if the core mechanism is managing time and time slots, then you can apply it eventually to anything. But yeah, I mean, and hopefully guys, like, again, my goal here today was to share something useful, more for you guys than for me. So hopefully you guys are.
That'd be great.
So before I do my thank yous, Maddie, is there anything we didn't talk about, anything we didn't ask that you wanted to leave us to think about, or leave some tidbits for the audience?
No, I mean, I think, AI will have a transformational impact on how people use technology. The quote is, we will go from point and click to describe and done. That is the world your children will be in. They will not clicky anymore. They will be giving instructions, and AI will be integrating those instructions and executing their workflows for them. And so, be a part of that journey, big, small, curious, not. It feels very foreign to people right now because it feels like it came out of nowhere. It didn't. OpenAI took 8 years to build. And no one cared till it was good. Sucked for 7 to 8 years. Terrible. But to everyone else, it felt like it was like, whoa, where did this come from? And so there's that excitement. There's that fear. There's that, is it going to happen again? And every time you've had a big technological breakthrough, the same thing has happened, right? The Bible is translated. It's not in Latin anymore. Like, I mean, there's real things like this that feel very, very different because they are, and they're going to have a big impact. But it's not magic. It's not fundamentally a new human, right? It is a technology. So I just encourage you guys to engage with it, try it, and just think about it as the next thing that like, yeah, this is how people are going to do work 15, 20 years from now. And we're going to look back one day and be like, remember when?
Well, it's perfect. It's perfect for mining. So, instead of using equipment from 100 years ago, we're in the same playing field as everyone else. This is new. And why shouldn't mining be have it just as accessible as everyone else on the planet? And mining could jump on it and be at the same level field as everyone else. So Cheryl Hart, thank you. You're our resident guru on connectivity. Jan Smith, you're our resident expert on all things innovative. And Maddie Bell, thank you so much. The hour just flew by for me. Lots of tidbits for us. And of course, to the audience who were always engaging and had a lot of things in the chat room. Cheryl, let's save the chat. So Maddie, you probably didn't have time to look through it, but you'll see what the audience was thinking. And if you have any follow-ups for Maddie, just go to the website and ask our expert, and to the Smart Enough Institute, which put on the platform for this show. So to the audience and to all the co-hosts, thank you so much. And especially to you, Maddie, for taking the time to talk to us today.
Yeah. And if people have follow-up questions, I'm on LinkedIn. And if I have a chance, I'll answer them. Whatever's on your mind is totally fine.